Okay, Sue, I'm so happy to have you on here. Okay, to all of you watching, I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine, a client of mine, a very talented artist and textile designer. Her name is Susan Troy. She recently launched her first line, right? Like first line and website and shop and everything of hand painted and digitally printed textiles. And she has been so inspiring to me over the past 3 months since I've gotten to know her on a much deeper level. And I just thought, I can't let this moment pass because she's in such an amazing place right now where her business is really blossoming. It's really growing. All of the things that she's been working for are starting to happen. And I really didn't want to let like this specific magical moment pass without talking to her about how she got here and where she came from, because I know there are so many of you out there that have dreams to build businesses like hers, creative businesses that mean so much to you, but it's just not happening. So I think that hearing from people like Sue is a huge source of inspiration, and pulling nuggets of what she's learned along the way and what she's done along the way will be so helpful to you and your journey. So that's why I wanted to invite her on today.
Thanks, Libby.
So yeah, Sue. So tell us about, I just gave you kind of a really brief intro of who you are to me. Tell me about your textile business and who you are as an artist, what you do, and the kind of products that you create.
Right now, I am painting specifically on cotton, bamboo, and linen cloth. And I'm doing these one-off pieces that are about 2.5, 2.25, 2.5 inches long. And I am then creating pillows from them or selling them right out as yardage. So it's really been fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm very motivated by doing small batches of textiles and doing things that are unusual, designs that are unusual that you wouldn't find in the mainstream textile market.
Awesome. So you have some examples back behind you. Can you grab some of those and show them up close, at least one of those pillows? So what I love about Sue's work, so I got to know Sue at first through a class that I teach, a branding class. And what became very apparent to me was she has a certain aesthetic in terms of what she likes. And it's a really, I can't even put it into words, but it's an amazing mix of tactile, sort of really, I don't even know. It's like a mix between modern and really like organic, cozy. I can't even explain, but just show your work, because it really, you capture something that a lot of people can't capture. So, and are these that you're showing, are these the original hand painted or are these printed?
These are original. So a lot of what I sell is the original hand painted fabric. And these pillows, which are reversible, but they're not the same. They have the same palette. They come from the same cloth that I painted. But because I paint very abstractly and I cover the whole cloth, it has the same color palette, but each pillow is unique in itself because it's a certain part of the fabric that I painted.
Oh, amazing.
So these are reversible, so they're different on each side. And I had made 4 of them. So this is another pillow from the same fabric.
I love, those are some of my favorite ones. Love that so much. So talk to me a little bit about, you paint onto bamboo and linen. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about how you developed your process and your style. Like, was this something that just came out, or I know that you have some schooling. Talk to me about that.
Yes, I have my bachelor's degree in textile design and fibers from UMass Dartmouth. I acquired that. I was older. I was 45 when I got my degree. And then I sort of dabbled around a little bit with textile design, but I knew that the computer wasn't my medium. And to sit in front of the computer and learn Photoshop and Illustrator, I struggled with it. I did it, but I just knew it wasn't really how I wanted to work. So then I did a little bit of painting on paper, but ultimately I landed here because I love the idea of a painted cloth that is sort of a work of art, and to be able to put that in your home, whether you're putting it on a pillow or you're covering a chair, making a curtain or curtains. So I love the whole process of painting, and I love the feel of the fabric and the paint, and I just love the whole part of it.
That makes me so happy. So and I know also you experiment a lot with layering different things with your fabric to get different effects and things like that. Is that something that you intuitively, you just experiment with things, or is part of that process anything that you learned along the way?
Some of it I learned along the way. I do work very intuitively. I don't always look at color trends. I do look at them. I guess I do look at them, but I don't always follow them, or will take a variation of it. And I usually get my inspiration from flowers. Always give me, because of the color, florals always inspire me, but I also like texture. And especially old buildings, architectural shapes and surfaces, I really like that. But for the process that I'm using now, I'm layering. I have a print table, and then I layer. I found that if I layer another nice piece of fabric, like the bamboo cotton, which is a beautiful fabric, it's very soft. It's like sheet weight. It's not real heavy, but it's beautiful in a quilt or even pillows. So I found that the fabric underneath, let me back up. I put that down, and then I put the linen down, and then I would paint the linen. But then I found that the drop cloth under the linen gave me as beautiful design of its own. So just from leaking through. So then I started to experiment more with that. So I figured, well, let me put a nice piece of cloth down. So I started using cotton or bamboo, and then the linen. And I researched the textile paints. Do I want to use textile paint? Do I want to use dye? What's more sustainable and really better for the environment and better for me? I don't want to use anything that's toxic. So the textile paints I use are non-toxic. And sometimes I will dye the fabric first, because my cloth goods come white. So I will sort of give it a background color, and then I will paint over that. So now I'm experimenting with putting some plastic underneath the bamboo so that the paint seeps even more into the linen, into the bamboo, and I'm getting another whole effect from that. So,
oh, I love it. And I'll share a link to Sue's Instagram account, because she shared some really fantastic videos of her process and her work. And I know she's going to continue to do that and share more and more. So for those of you that, from the artist standpoint, are really intrigued by what she's talking about, you can check that out there. Mm-hmm. So something really interesting came up for me as you're talking about this. So a lot of people that are creative sort of get the idea, get the spark to do something like this. And I want to experiment with painting fabric, say. And there's that piece of it. And then there's a bigger jump that happens to actually making a business out of it. A lot of people do these kinds of things as a hobby, and they say, like, wouldn't it be nice if I could do this all day and get paid for it? But but that's not in the cards for me, or whatever they tell themselves about why they wouldn't want a business in creating. So talk to me about, for you, what having a business doing this work that you love means different than just having it be a hobby. What was it that made you decide you wanted to have it be a business?
I've always wanted to share what I do, and I feel like the textiles that I paint would look so beautiful in homes, and I feel like this is something that I can give to, show people can purchase it. It's something unusual. And I love to do it. I really do.
Oh, that really warms my heart, because it's true. I think that those of us who really are primed to succeed is because we want to share our work, right? I mean, you could paint all day long and just start to stockpile this stuff if it was all about just the process, because obviously we love the process too. Like anybody who's creative loves the process of the making, and that's where the spark started.
Yes.
But then to share it is the real gift. Like the creation is the gift to yourself, because but actually the sharing is the gift to yourself too, because I find that when I share things with like my community or with the public or whatever, it actually, I think, adds more to my happiness than to theirs in a lot of ways. Because I guess that must be one of my love languages, gift giving or something like that. But
yes, I agree with you. I think that for people who are creative, I think to get to this stage takes so much courage to do that. And it takes a lot of courage to share it. So for me to get to this point and to be talking to you about it and being very open and excited, it's just, it just makes me so happy. It's just such a good feeling to be able to do that, because I think for me, I was sort of, you have your support systems, your family and your friends, but there's always that part of you that is so afraid to share what you do. And so it's a leap. It's a leap, but I'm doing it.
1,000,000%. You're doing it. That is such a good segue for us to talk tiny bit about, but you weren't always there, right? You weren't always in that place where you were feeling the courage. So this has come up a lot in my sphere lately, and like in my head, and people that I listen to, of talking about like, how do you get the confidence to like do the things that you want to do? And the truth is that I don't think you ever get the confidence unless it's like a fake confidence. You get the courage. Mm-hmm. And the more that you get the courage, the more it builds the confidence. But every time you take a big new leap, you're not going to have the confidence unless you've done it before. Mm-hmm. And honestly, every time you do something new, it's, even if you've done it before, you're probably doing it in a new way this time, or with a new person, or with a new whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's always about realizing that you just have to muster that courage to do it if you want that dream. Right. And for those people that they let their fears block them from succeeding, that's where they stay stuck and they stay where they're at. So talk to me about, you alluded to the fact that you haven't always been in that place. Mm-hmm. So let's just like recap a picture of where you're at now. Sue last week launched her website, her shop that has her full collection to this point. Since doing that, she has started to sell products. Her shop is not just sitting, not being used. She's shipped products. Mm-hmm. And she's had people reach out to her about being featured in publications. She has someone coming this week to interview her for a magazine article, and coming in 2 weeks to photograph you for that. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that we know help explode people's creative careers, is getting featured and getting eyes on your work and getting people interested in you. But all of that wouldn't be happening if you didn't find the courage.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about 6 months ago, a year ago. Where were you at? How were you feeling? And what had to shift, and what you had to do to get the courage?
Okay. So a year ago, I was just starting to work part-time. I was working full-time in a hospital, in a clinic. And I point that out because it's a whole other side of my brain that I'm using when I do that. So it is a pediatric clinic. And so when I go there, I'm very focused and detail oriented in a different way than I am with my artwork. A year ago, I started working part-time. That I knew, and I wanted that because doing that work full-time was draining everything out of me. It wasn't making me happy. It was making me tired. And I just knew I needed to get part-time so that I could do my artwork. So I started doing that a year ago. And that's when I just started to kind of think in my mind how I was going to do this. Because previously, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing apparel, and I've always been a sewer my whole life. And so that seemed like the natural thing for me to do. Is I liked cloth and I liked making things, sewing things. So I went into apparel, but that was a really, really hard market to, get into. It's just a tough nut to crack. And, when you're competing with places like H&M and Target, and it was just difficult for me. So I ended up abandoning that, and I was working full time, and then now I'm part time. So I knew I wanted to take another avenue. I knew I wanted to do something different, but I wanted to do something.
Sorry. Sorry, guys. 2 of the weights on my grandfather clock just fell down.
Oh my God!
Real life. I'll deal with that later. It's funny because I was just thinking. It's funny because the chimes were going, and it's 11 o'clock. So I was like, "This is gonna go 11 times while Sue's talking. This is gonna go 11 times." Nope, it didn't. It didn't.
It just fell.
Yeah. Okay. Back to you. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. So I started researching painted cloth. Again, I went back to, do I want to go into the computer design aspect of it? And honestly, I will tell you, I was sort of sewed out. I was from making clothes. I really didn't want to spend a lot of time doing that. I wanted to spend time on the cloth. So I started researching textile paints and dyes and things like that. So I really spent the most part of this past year doing that and trying different things. I found that for surface design, the dyes didn't work for me because of the process. You have to put down a resist if that's what you want, and then paint the dye, and then let it cure, and then you need to wash it. And I found that when I washed it, unless I used a resist in every aspect that I didn't want dyed, the dye would run onto it. So that wasn't the effect that I wanted. So things like that are what I really spent the last year doing, and just what it was that I wanted to do. Do I want to screen print, for instance? And I found that that's just too constraining for me. I really like the flow of abstract painting and color and mixing color, and it's just very intuitive.
So what got you to a point where you were like, okay, now's the time to launch my business. Now I know I need to take the next step. And then how do you know what to do?
How do I know what to do? I think I got, the more that I was doing it, and then I started to sample, I'd make the fabric and then I'd make some pillows, and I was loving it. And I did take a brief class at RISD last winter, and have talked with a friend of mine who's a colleague. She's a textile designer in Bristol, Rhode Island, Dawn. And so I got a lot of feedback from her about interiors and interior designers and what they're looking for. And I thought, this is right up my alley. I can do this. This is what I would love to do. And I just got to step back a little bit. When I was younger, and a young mother, I used to make my daughter's clothes and, a few dresses here and there, made some quilts, but I always searched out that unusual fabric. So I would make, this was like 1988, and I would make sundresses with pears on them and fruit. And it was just, it really was so unusual at that time. So
I knew that we had a connection for a reason, because in 1988, I was 6 years old, and my mom also made me, I had this fruit dress that was like, it's still, my mom still has it. She made me two different things that to this day are like some of my favorite things, because they just bring back this nostalgia. One of them had these like Swedish like dolls on the bottom, and then one was like a fruit thing. Anyway, I hear you. I love that.
I still think we're related somewhere along the line.
I know, right? So sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
That's okay. So I was pumped, and that kept me going for a few months. But then when I did your mood board class and I met you, is when really you opened my eyes to so many things. Like, I couldn't believe some of the things you were saying. And I thought, oh my God, like, to this, I still tell everyone that when you said to me, or said to us in the class, and you said, what other people like is none of your business. That was like, oh, I mean, the lights went on. I just said, oh God, thank you. Because especially as a textile designer, I think you struggle with that. Or even as an artist, and you want to sell, and you struggle with, what do people want? What color do they want? What's trending? And it was always sort of hard for me to compartmentalize myself in that way. I'm too much of a abstract artist to think that way. So after I did your mood board class, and then I stayed on, and now it's just, you've helped me to build my confidence and to do the things that I need to do to build my business, but to feel good about what I'm doing and feel good about myself, and to look inward and not outward. That was the other one.
That is huge. I think that is something, I know it's something I have struggled with. It's something that's made a huge difference in my personal life, my business life. But I think it's something that a lot of artists struggle with, because especially artists and creative, because I think that the place that the creativity comes from is an intuitive place. Just how you were talking about in your process and your experimenting, like, some things felt really right and some things felt really wrong. And even though maybe you got beautiful results with something, like, the process just didn't flow for you. Mm-hmm. And we are really, really in touch with our intuition in terms of what feels good to us. But then when it comes to translating that same energy and that same like sense of confidence within ourselves to business, mm-hmm. It's like it just doesn't translate. Mm-hmm. But it does. It should, and it can. Right. But it's such a foreign world for most creative people, we don't trust it. We trust our intuition in our art. We don't trust our intuition in business. And it's really sad because I think that that is the number one thing that derails people, because they start to look outside themselves about what other people want, and then they're creating for other people and not for themselves. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, it's impossible to guess what other people want. So then you're not doing work that feels good to you, and you're missing the mark with people because you're guessing. And you're right. That's a huge, excuse me, sticking point for, I think, a lot of creatives. And I think that's the reason a lot of people don't get beyond the hobby piece of it, because they're afraid that they just won't know what to do, or they'll do the things that everybody else says to do, and it won't feel good for them. Like, I think a lot of people think that then all of a sudden they're going to be running this business that's just taking over their life, and they won't get to do the creative stuff they like to do anymore.
Right.
And that's really scary, because we didn't get into it to be business owners. We got into it to share our work with the world. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that our brain can do along the way to convince us that it's not a safe decision to put ourselves out there and to put our really deep personal work out there. Mm-hmm. So you should be really, really proud. So I'm really curious. I know I'm trying to keep this interview a little bit shorter than it's gone, but I'm really curious. When you took the mood board class with me, it sounds like that was kind of the catalyst to, like, really get the ball rolling from what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Did you take the mood board class out of the intention of getting a solid brand for your business and knowing that that was going to be a jumping off point? Or did you take that class because you had kind of tried to launch your business before that, but felt like you didn't have a solid style or a solid brand that made you feel confident to put yourself out there?
Yes, the second one. I felt like when you did the mood board class and we were talking about our brand, and I never felt like I really sort of nailed down a brand for me. But I also struggled with, and I think probably other people do, I went from, apparel, well, now I'm making cloth and pillows and, what will be next sort of thing. Like I've tried different things out, and it was hard for me to stick to any of them, because I think now in retrospect, I think that they weren't what I was supposed to do, and I'm finally at that place where I need to be. And so when you did the mood board class, I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to, learn about me and my brand. And I was so surprised by what I learned about myself and my brand. I mean, it could, just down to, the color green. I talked to you about that, and I was like, and it's in my mood board, and I love being outside, and I love the color green, but I don't put it in my work that much. It's just not something that I turn to. I mean, I do a little bit. I was just surprised. I was just really surprised by that. I'm not sure why, but so little things like that, and little things that you said about developing your business that I had never thought about, and that it just made me feel so comfortable with what I was about to do, that it gave me a boost of confidence. And I thought, yeah, I can do this. And the other thing too is just stay true to yourself. People would say that to me, and I never felt it more than I do now. I really don't.
It's easier said than done, right?
It is. It really is. It really is. On
a regular basis, how do you keep yourself in check with, when you were saying, look inward, don't look outward? And that, I think, is being true to yourself, is continuing to look inward, not outward. How do you make sure that you don't get derailed and go down the path of worrying about everybody else and their opinions of you?
I looked for inspiration. Whenever I'm going to start something new, I'm always looking for different forms of inspiration, and I will do that in whether it's taking a picture outside or if I'm looking at my art books or, wanting to look at color and wanting to investigate that a little bit. So I spend some time doing that. And I really sort of just put my blinders on and I just go with what feels good to me. And once in a while it creeps in, and it does. It really does. Like, oh, I don't know. Is anyone going to like this? And, I've been very, very surprised, especially with my launch, that some of the fabric, the cloth that I painted, I almost didn't make a pillow out of because I thought, oh, it's sort of, it was, it was like a deep orange and brown, and I loved it, but I thought, oh, I don't know. And I made a pillow, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from that. And so I'm very surprised what people think. And then, so that gives me encouragement, and that gives me confidence to just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
And like you said, do what you love, and you're going to attract the people that you need.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then you touched on it at the beginning too. I would also add having a strong support system for those times when you feel like you are getting stuck, or you're starting to get into a lull. That for me, at least, I know this interview is about you, but that for me has been huge too. Because like you said, like our family and friends can be supportive, but I've found that people that aren't creative people trying to run profitable businesses that make us happy don't fully understand the emotional side of that piece of it, the worries and the fears and the doubts that creep in that keep us from taking the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right. For me, at least, that's a big one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, awesome. Okay, I'm going to cut you off because this has been way longer than I had. Actually, I don't know what time it is. My clock. I kept you way longer, but I thank you so much for your time and talking with me. I know that this is going to really inspire a lot of people. I want you to share, you guys, Sue is doing big things. Her business is going to explode. You're going to see her in millions of magazines coming really soon, actually. She has people coming to interview her. So share with everybody where they can find more of you. I know that your website is where people can purchase stuff. Instagram, what are those? And then any last words that you have, and then I'll say goodbye.
Yeah, so my website is susantroy.com. My Instagram is Susan_Troy, and my Facebook page is Susan Troy Cloth. So you can find me, hunt me down in any way that you need to. And
actually, I guess I have a last question once you're...
Yeah.
For artists that are in a place of where you were, like say a year ago, what advice, and they know deep in their heart that they want what you have, what you're going after, what advice would you give to them?
I would say that do what you love to do. And I know that sounds, sort of common, and people say it all the time, but it's really true. And stick to yourself. Get a coach like Libby. She will keep you on.
That was not the intention. That was the intention.
No, but it's true. It really is. It's a huge support. It's really helped me to gain the momentum that I have right now. I have never had this before. And so, but do what you want to do. Do what you love to do. I don't know what else to say. It's stick to it. Stick to it. Don't let anyone discourage you at all. You'll be happy. If you want to be happy, that's what you have to do. Everybody wants that.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Everyone wants to be happy. Okay. Thank you so much. This has been such an honor to be able to talk to you. We got to cover some things I didn't even know about you. So I love that. And thank you for sharing with the world. This
Thank you, Libby.
is a part of you and your work. And I'm so excited for where you're headed.
Thanks, Libby.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay.
See ya.
Drizzly day in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Oh, happy Columbus Day.
Oh,
right?
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.